Most people forget about 95% of the things they learn in just 1 month. You go to class, you make detailed notes, spend hours solving assignments, and still, after a month, you barely remember what you studied. How frustrating is that? But here's the thing, there are people who learn things much faster than you. A task that takes you 10 hours might take them only 3 hours. Not only that, but once they learn something, they don't forget it. Take Scott Young, for example, the author of Ultra Learning. Scott finished his 4-year computer science degree in just 1 year, and on top of that, he learned multiple languages in just a few months. So, what's their secret? How can you be like them and learn more efficiently? Well, in this video, I'm going to share a few tips and techniques that you can start using today to learn faster and retain more. Whether you're in school, college, or attending coaching classes, these tips will be a game changer for you. Let's start with something important that can totally transform your approach to learning: meta-learning. Most people think learning is all about consuming information, reading books, watching lectures, and taking notes. But that's not the whole picture. Learning happens in 2 phases. Phase 1, you consume information through reading, listening, or watching. Phase 2, you give yourself time to process that information, apply it, and later retrieve it to reinforce what you've learned. But here's the problem: most people don't pay enough attention to phase 2, and that's why they struggle to retain what they've learned. Your brain is like a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger the connections between your neurons become. This is where meta-learning comes in. It's essentially the skill of learning how to learn. If you master this, you'll be able to save time and learn faster every time you pick up something new. Here's the thing, learning is active, not passive. You can't just read a book and expect to remember everything. So, to become better at learning, there are 3 key rules of meta-learning that I'll share with you today. These rules will change how you approach studying. Rule number 1, understand the why behind your learning. Why are you learning something? If you're preparing for an exam, your focus will be different from when you're learning just for the sake of curiosity. For example, if you're preparing for a test, it's crucial to identify the key areas and patterns in previous exams. When you study with a clear purpose in mind, your study sessions will be far more effective. Rule number 2, identify the minimum number of things you need to learn. In many subjects, there are few core concepts or topics that are essential for success. Instead of trying to learn everything, focus on the fundamentals first. This is especially important for exams where previous questions can give you insights into the most tested topics. For example, by analyzing past exam papers, you might realize that certain chapters are less important and can be skipped. This way, you don't waste time on irrelevant material. Rule number 3, decide how you'll learn. Once you know the purpose of your learning and the topics to focus on, the next step is to figure out the best learning method. Some students just read, while others watch lectures. But here's the truth, learning is not a passive activity. It requires active engagement. You can't just consume information, you need to apply it, practice it, and test yourself on it. Otherwise, you won't retain anything. Now that you know the core principles of meta-learning, let's move on to some practical techniques that can make your learning process much more effective. Technique number 1, learn in 3 phases. Whether you're building an app, preparing for a website project, or studying for an exam, I recommend breaking your learning into 3 phases. Phase 1, exposure, watch videos, read materials, or attend lectures on the topic you're learning about. This is when you get a general overview of the material. Phase 2, practice. This is the most important phase because this is where real learning happens. As you practice, you'll encounter doubt. Don't be afraid to ask questions, no matter how small or stupid they may seem. In class, many students feel hesitant to ask questions because they fear judgment. But here's the truth, not asking questions kills your growth. Your doubts are the exact areas where you need to focus. Phase 3, retrieval. This is when you test yourself after a few days to see how much you've retained. You can do this by solving problems or by simply asking yourself questions related to the material you learned. Spaced repetition is key here. If you wait too long, you may forget the information altogether. Each of these phases is equally important. So, next time you create a study schedule, be sure to block time for all 3 phases. Trust me, this will make a huge difference in your learning efficiency. Technique number 2. Use technology to learn and revise. AI and tech tools are getting better and better, and some of them are free. Here are 3 AI tools I highly recommend. Google's Notebook AI. This tool can summarize your notes, explain complex concepts, and even turn your study materials into a podcast. You can also ask questions and get immediate answers. I've been using this for the past few months, and I love it. It's a fantastic tool for revising and deepening your understanding. Google's AI Studio. This tool is even more powerful. Imagine being able to have a real-time Google Meet with an AI expert. You can share your screen, ask questions, and the AI will answer them immediately. It's like having a tutor by your side 24/7. It's crazy how much technology has advanced. Anki, this is a flashcard app that helps with spaced repetition. It asks you questions about the material you've learned at regular intervals, helping you retain information in the long term. I haven't used it much myself, but many students swear by it. I recommend giving it a try, especially if you struggle with retaining new information. Also, let me know in the comments if you want me to make a dedicated video on AI study tools for students. Most of the videos I've seen on this topic are just okay, but I think I could dive much deeper into how to use these tools effectively. Technique number 3, keep your brain active. Studies show that when you study for 4 hours straight, only about 25% of that time is spent effectively learning. That means, for a 4-hour study session, your brain is really only engaged for 1 hour. Shocking, right? One of the best ways to combat this is by using techniques like Pomodoro or Ultron sprints. These techniques involve studying for short bursts, e.g., 25 minutes, followed by a break, e.g., 5 minutes. The idea is to stay focused during the study period and recharge during the break. This ensures that your brain stays sharp and doesn't burn out. There's another technique called the interleaving effect. Instead of studying the same subject for 3 to 4 hours straight, try switching between different subjects every 1 to 2 hours. This will keep your brain engaged and improve retention by making it recognize patterns across different subjects. Technique number 4, the Feynman technique. This technique is a game changer. It says that when you learn something new, you should explain it in the simplest way possible. Here's how it works. Read or learn something new. Explain it to yourself as if you were teaching it to someone else, using simple language. If you get stuck at any point, that's where you need to revise. The Feynman technique helps identify gaps in your understanding and reinforces your learning. If you can't explain it in simple terms, you don't fully understand it yet. Finally, remember, the more effort you put into learning, the more you'll retain. Whether it's through making detailed notes, actively practicing, or testing yourself, your brain needs constant engagement. If you're not challenging your